Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing. What's up, Progressive Overload Podcast? We are so excited to be with you this day, and we are excited to have another guest on our podcast. Everybody welcome Mrs. Veronica Umholtz.
Hi, all. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have her. This whole, this is episode 41 or 42.
Is it really?
Yeah, dude. And we have not had a female perspective on it yet.
That's
and
true.
So very excited to have that and just kind of learn from her. She is a certified personal trainer, certified corrective exercise specialist, and a bunch of other things. And I've really enjoyed getting to know her and her take on fitness. She is training at Swan Family Wellness Center now. And so if you are local and you would love to work with her after this episode drops, you know where to find her. And so Veronica, tell us a little bit kind of how your background in fitness, like when you got started, what's a quick little synopsis on your personal story?
My personal story with fitness is really just having like an older parents.
Okay.
My family had us late in life, and it was always really difficult for her to move, being overweight and type 2 diabetes. And as time went on, I knew that I didn't know what I wanted as far as fitness, but I knew I didn't want that.
Right.
So it's been a lot of trial and error. It really started probably about 15 years ago. My mother-in-law was a bodybuilder. My father-in-law was a cop.
Okay.
And my husband left for the military. So that left me with a lot of time on my hands.
Sure.
Right.
So I went to the gym with him, and he was my workout buddy, and he wouldn't let us leave until we hit a certain amount. I really learned everything from them and just fell in love with it in a way that I didn't think I would. I've never considered myself an athlete. Mm-hmm. I've never considered myself to be coordinated or into sports or anything like that. So lifting some heavy stuff was exciting for me.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. Well, obviously thank you to your husband and you for all the sacrifices made for us. That's can never go unthanked. Yeah.
That's right. And I can relate to being unathletic and uncool, all of those things. So
right.
Tyson is the resident athlete in the room. So
yeah. And honestly, I didn't become an athlete until after high school either.
Right.
So yeah, I wasn't really into the team sport thing. Mm-hmm. And kind of like you too, I didn't fit in a whole lot with the whole aspect of the pressure of competition between the team and all that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then I didn't get along with the coaches all that well either. So.
I've heard some stories.
So
yeah. Well, cool. So how long have you been a trainer, certified?
How long have I been certified? So I got my certification back in 2000 and either 18 or 19, honestly, I can't remember. Yeah. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and I just took a few handful of clients out of my gym, out of the garage gym.
Nice.
And then when COVID hit, there were a few people that wanted to continue working out and continue in a fitness journey, but obviously didn't want to go to a commercial gym, and there were times when gyms weren't even open. So part of the workout would be hauling dumbbells to the park. Yeah. So we would go there and we would work out at the park, and I did small exercise groups that I used a tape measure and taped everyone 6 feet away in local park.
Gosh, yeah.
So we do some group training there as well.
Yeah. When we shut down our gym, I might have made some house calls during that, or maybe I didn't. Nobody will know.
I know.
No, I'm just joking. Man, that was a tough time for trainers. For everybody, obviously. Yeah.
But the fitness industry, I would think, especially with the garage gym and that whole thing, it really blew up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for me though, because I really wanted weights and all that stuff, and it doubled in price, and now the prices have remained that way.
I couldn't even find them to order for the longest time.
For sure,
everything
especially
was out.
in the height of COVID for sure. But even now, it seems like the prices hiked up, and they just stayed up there.
Right.
So
you know what pisses me off is the way mainstream marketing goes to females. the way they market fitness to females.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's so much just junk out there that has caused so much damage to men also, of course, but the way they market to female, they package we'll get into it obviously here in a little bit, but the way they package fitness is this pink and dainty and let's elongate the muscle and stuff like that.
Toning.
And yes.
I like that voice, Joe.
I know.
Keep using that.
That's my sensitive voice. Yeah. When in reality, it's so much more than that. And whenever they fall to these marketing schemes, it creates unhealthy relationships with food, unhealthy relationships with exercise, unhealthy relationships, period. And so it's kind of what we wanted to bring you on today and talk about. You've been a part of that. You've seen that. You've been marketed towards that way.
Absolutely.
And so let's just start off with that. Like, what's one of the main lies that the fitness industry tells women that you can think of?
Yeah, well, definitely the toning thing. Like, if the minute you lift a dumbbell that's 5 pounds, you're going to turn into Arnold, and we know that that's just not true.
Right.
You're not going to be a race car driver from stepping behind a wheel of a car. You're not going to be a bodybuilder the minute you touch a weight.
Right.
That's not how it works. And for people looking for that aesthetic, we know exactly how that doesn't work. So, because that's something that you strive for and you work really hard for.
Yeah.
I think personally, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've been too heavy. I've been underweight. Now I'm somewhere in between. And I definitely fell victim to that 1,200, 1,300 calorie lie that we're always told for women to lose weight.
Right.
And looking at weight on a scale as opposed to fat loss, thinking about weight loss. And now I know that the scale doesn't tell the whole story.
No.
And that's something that I definitely try to tell to my other female clients and females in general, because weight loss by any means is not healthy. And if you're trying to pursue health, just losing weight on the scale is not going to be the answer.
No.
Yeah, I like that statement. The scale does not tell the whole story. That's a really good statement for everybody, for men, for women, because men can get caught in that sometimes as well.
Of course.
And but yeah, certainly for women, I really like that statement. The scale doesn't tell the whole story.
It's a very tiny piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Yeah. And
Well,
go ahead.
To your point too, do you think that a lot of the cardio fitness industry is really geared towards women too?
Oh, definitely, because that's the fear of getting bulky, right? So they're like, well, I'll just do a bunch of cardio, and that way I'll just lean out instead of get bulky or put on too much muscle. And obviously, that's not helpful either. So that's definitely another lie I would say that the fitness industry tells. I have seen recent years more and more women coming to the gym, though, and I do think there is a little bit of media to thank for that, as they promote more women who aren't afraid of looking bulky, who aren't afraid of putting on some muscle mass, and people are like, well, I could do that too. So I have seen more of younger women in the gym than ever before, and I think that's really exciting.
For sure, we're starting to see the shift a little bit. And like we talked about a couple episodes ago, is CrossFit was a huge thing to deal with that. Is they kind of made lifting cool again for females, and luckily they're not. They're not just doing CrossFit now, and we see tons of women working out. One of the biggest misconceptions that I hear is that lot of reps, lightweight, lot of reps, that's for toning, and lifting heavy is for bulking.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Sounds like a therapist.
Yeah.
Tell
How's
me
that
how
working
that
out
makes
for
you
you?
feel.
The gym is therapy. So
Right, that's
I
right.
feel
Amen.
that way. I think it can be frustrating because everybody's goals can be different.
Right.
So I feel like it depends what client you have, their abilities. I don't think that's the answer for everyone, but it could be the answer for some people. So it's also not incorrect for everybody either.
Right.
What I try to tell most of my clients who are looking to gain strength is you've got to push yourself a little bit farther than what you would do normally. And as the podcast is called Progressive Overload, that's what we work on. It's over time, we're adding more weight and we're pushing ourselves a little bit more.
Right, exactly.
And that's how we're gaining strength and we're gaining muscle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's the intimidating part for some people, though, is like what you said. It's so individualized. Like everything, it's, well, what do I need to do? Well, it depends. That's
answer,
always
right?
that's the always answer. It depends.
It's true though,
and it's
true.
the truth, but it makes it hard for the person to actually just want to jump into it, because they're like, well, if it doesn't work for me, how do I find out what's for me?
Right.
And of course, in my opinion, the answer is, well, find somebody who knows what they're talking about.
In trial and error. Like if
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
work for you, try something else.
Right.
Very much true.
Just keep moving through that spectrum of things, because there's a lot of different tools in the gym to use,
Right.
and a lot of different perspectives, from female trainers to male trainers to, how a program should affect your body. But all of our bodies will respond differently to the same program. All four of us could get on the same program, and it would do something different to each one of us.
Absolutely.
And so that's just important for people to hear more often than they do.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly. Well, I mean, a lot of lies out there are they're selling programs that are specific to men, or specific to women, and just like we just talked about, it's individual. It goes down to the individual, not the sex. And of course, we'll get into it here in a second, but there are considerations we have to make when we're programming for a female that we don't have to make when we're programming for a male. But it all goes down to the individual. So find a coach, find somebody that knows what they're doing, do your own research, and trial and error. It's a process.
And you can fire your coach if it's something that you don't feel like their philosophy is working for you, or you don't go with it. Like, you don't have to stick with that person.
Yeah. Well, and I could also say you can outgrow your coach too.
Oh, agreed.
You can reach the threshold of like, I can take over from here. I know enough now.
Yeah, and not all coaches are created equal, and I've said that a lot of times too. The way I train and what I'm passionate about for training people and educating people on is not the same way that I train myself.
Sure, certainly.
And we got to take that into consideration. And I don't think that a lot of trainers and coaches do that.
Right.
They want to train people the way that they train in the gym. And that's not always going to be the case.
And that's true in the fighting world too. There's definitely a possibility of outgrowing your martial arts coach and your jiu-jitsu coach, and needing a new style or finding something fresh. And I think sometimes there's a stigma of loyalty that's there for some people. Like, well, I'm a part of this family. I have to be here forever.
Absolutely.
Right.
But
I think that's the biggest reason why a lot of people start an exercise regimen or program. That's why CrossFit was so popular, is it wasn't CrossFit itself that people were seeking out, it's community.
Sure.
And the same thing with MMA gyms, the same thing with like any gym. Like, it's a sense of belonging and a sense of being in a place where people are going to miss you when you're not there.
Absolutely.
So I think there is a definite sense of loyalty, and you don't want to mess with your sense of belonging. You don't want to mess with your home, so to speak.
Sure.
Right. So when I'm programming for a female, and I want you to tell me the answer to this, how should I take certain female, I'm trying to think, aspects into consideration when I'm building that program? So, like, how should I adjust a program to fit their menstrual cycle?
Honestly, I think that you would have to build a certain rapport with your client, obviously, to get that information.
Right.
And then that's not just something for you as a male. That's something for me as a female, too.
Of course.
There are women that are more open to talking about their actual health and not just the menstrual cycle and stuff like that, but eating habits and exercise habits in general. I think a lot of coaches will agree that we don't get the whole truth.
Right.
We get what they think they are supposed to say, what they think we want to hear.
Right.
And so if we ask if they're tired and how they're feeling, most of the time they're going to say, I feel fine.
Gotcha.
I feel good.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times women in the fitness industry, people who have been working out for a long period of time, have been told to completely ignore their cycle.
Right.
Completely ignore any symptoms of hormonal changes or anything. Act like it doesn't exist. Want to know why? Because we don't want to be treated differently than our male counterparts in the gym.
Gotcha.
So we just ignore when we're tired, we push through it, and that can also cause more damage than actual it is making us stronger and anything like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So there are certain things to consider when a woman is on different cycles. Is eating habits are going to change.
Yeah.
Obviously. There are times we're going to need more fuel than we normally do.
Okay.
And I think that is the big one, because if we are listening to that 1,200 calorie deficit lie, they may be even more frustrated with lack of results in the gym.
Yeah.
There's going to be a period of time where you're going to weigh more on the scale, and it has nothing to do with body fat.
Yeah.
And I think that all this gets jumbled. It just gets disregarded.
Right.
Because they think that they've done something wrong. They think they're hungrier and they don't know why. And they're thinking they're messing up, and it causes frustration. And that's a period of time where people quit.
Yeah. That's good. So just be open. If you're being coached by somebody, be open with them. Like in my experience, most of my clients are way more open than I even asked them to be. And I get details that make me blush sometimes, and that's fine.
You're so easy to talk to.
I know. You know what? It's me. But yeah, it happens pretty often actually. But adjusting. So I know that like low carb diets typically do not work well for the female hormone profile. Do you know much about that, or do you coach that very often?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit. I do overall coaching as far as food and food intake.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's beyond my scope to prescribe any sort of diet or prescribe any sort of thing. Again, I feel like this relies on the individual.
Yeah.
I feel better myself when I'm eating more of a low carb diet. Again, not to say all the time. There are definitely times in my cycle where I know that I need more energy and I know that I need more carbs. Right. But that's from listening to my body and learning over time that trial and error, what I need and how I'm going to feel my best. Yeah. And if I don't get it, my workout suffers, my sleep suffers, everything suffers, and it's not great. Yeah. I don't really, when I talk to women about what they're eating, what I find is 9 times out of 10, they're not eating much of anything. And so they have this food fear, this fear of eating too much. So they go the other way and they eat too little. And then they wonder why they're not making any gains in the gym, why they're not feeling stronger. And it's because we're eating so little because we're so afraid of gaining any sort of weight. So what I do isn't really breaking it down into what to eat and what not to eat. I just want them to eat steadily. Right. So I'm just like, how many meals have you had today? Right. How much water have you had today? Let's add in another meal. So I really try hard to add more stuff in and talk about adding in rather than subtracting. So I'm going to talk about adding in more vegetables. I'm going to talk about adding in more things rather than taking things away. Yeah. I did have a client recently be like, oh, well, I do have a glass of wine at night. That's absolutely fine. I'm not going to tell you that you can't have that. Right. And I think that's what people have come to expect from trainers is to hear, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm like, do it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if that's part of your schedule, it's part of your routine, taking it out could probably disrupt a lot more things than just what you're eating. It could disrupt just your peas, and it could disrupt your schedule and getting ready for bed and how you're sleeping and a lot of things. Yeah. So, I would coach just adding in more water maybe instead of taking away anything.
To your point, working with female fighters, especially when they're cutting weight for an event, their water intake and everything else. And then they're so worried about that weigh-in day, that number, where they're not eating anything at all. Sometimes, at least in the experience of one individual that I was working with. Yeah. And that was exactly it. It's just like, no, you have to. We got 2-a-days. We got 2-a-days coming up. You can't be passing out, Yeah. Yeah. So it was totally like, no, we need to eat more, and the weight will come off, especially if we just follow the protocol. Just trust the program.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have much experience in the fighting world at all, but I have worked with a few people who have done bodybuilding competitions, bikini competitions, and things like that, and that is extreme. And I think that's why when we are meeting new people and new clients, we need to talk about what their idea of health is. Sure. Because everyone's idea of health is different. And I think at the end of the day, if you're cutting out salt and you're cutting water to be on a stage for a day, I'm never going to call that healthy. No. If that's something that you want to sacrifice because you have a passion for that and that's what you want to do, that's fine, but I'm not going to promote that as health.
Yeah, it's the worst part of the sport, but it's a part of the sport. Right. So you have to get good at it.
And athletes are treated differently. And we have to say that too. I mean, all athletes have done things that I wouldn't consider healthy, but everyone also agrees when they're in the gym, they're trying to be healthy. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there.
So I'm thinking about what you're saying about food, and you say maybe your female clients are not eating much of anything, right? Because I feel like, and then you say they don't give you the whole truth with their overall health, whereas maybe in Joe's case they do, but I I think about the word shame, and the word that we associate shaming with food. We associate shaming with our overall health. We associate shame with a whole bunch of things that we probably shouldn't.
Absolutely.
And that gets us into so much trouble, whether it's men or women. But how do you address that as a trainer, to build that rapport with them? What do you do? What are some of the things that you might do?
Well, honestly, my personal experience with it, I know that when I was under eating and I was ready to sacrifice all health for a smaller number on the scale at one point in my life, I had a lot of morality attached to food. I had a lot of morality attached to how much I exercised. And to the point, I would judge other people for what was in their cart. I would judge other people on how much I saw them at the gym. And I just know that I wouldn't want anyone to look at me that way.
Right.
And so my mindset has completely changed, probably somewhere around having children and switching an aesthetic for health. It changes your motivation for everything.
Absolutely.
But I think what I've told a lot of people is we're really going to divorce the idea of our routine to morality. There's no morality in food. You're not a better person for how you eat.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's just not.
It's just
we're
fuel.
all just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And you're not a better person if you go to 3 exercise classes a day versus one person who's just trying to get in barely during a lunch break.
Exactly.
There's just no morality in it. Yeah. And I think when we start to put morality in it is where things get dicey. And that's where that shame comes from. They feel like they're doing something wrong. They're failing on a fundamental level. If you can't even get your food right, but what does that mean?
Right.
It's and I really didn't even realize I hung on to a lot of morality attached to food until our income changed. And I used to everything was free ranged, everything was grass fed. We got everything from farmers markets, and then our finances changed. We moved, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And that also calls to question money, right? It all comes down to money. What can you afford? And that's a huge topic probably for another day is can you afford to be healthy and what is healthy? So people are saying that this is the morality. Can you afford that morality? You buy that morality?
That's no, actually our second most shameful plug here. Not shameful plug. What's the word?
Shameless
plug. That's it. Shameless plug here.
The opposite of what you were trying to say.
Our second most shared and listened to episode is called the moralization of food. Yeah. And so it's a super hot topic. And so if you haven't listened to that one, go check it out. How, Tyson, you and I were discussing how much you wish you could be a pelvic floor therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mainly just because there's such
money
good money in it.
Yeah.
And so that's another major consideration that we have to take for, the rebuilding of the pelvic floor after, birthing a child.
Absolutely.
Have you had to do that much?
So I really haven't had to do much of that myself as far as training, or even for me personally after having 2 children. I think that it's something that's very neglected though. And I think that women have a lot of difficulties with things that it's, again, shameful to talk about because you feel like you've failed on some level, you've done something wrong, you're not taking care of yourself, or just society makes it like a very hush-hush kind of thing, just like menstrual cycles, which it shouldn't be. No. It's a part of life. And I think that we've really neglected women in care in general after you have a baby, and just flat out in general. We've neglected mental health. We are giving this woman who's just had a baby, we're like, here's a brand new baby, go take care of that. Yeah. And at this time, there's no time to take care of yourself. But we're like, don't forget to take care of yourself. Yeah. Okay, well, how do I do that? You're not giving me any practical way to actually do that. So I don't have the exact studies on me, but research has shown at this time, it's a very high time for women to develop infections. It's a high time for women to develop, obviously, postpartum depression, and it sets a tone for all of your postpartum issues. And women, even with checkups after the doctor, a lot of times pelvic floor is never discussed. It wasn't even until my second child I even realized if I exercise too soon after my C-section, I could have very dangerous repercussions. They don't tell you those things. And I was like, how am I just now learning this after a second child? That if I lift too heavy too soon, that there could be a prolapse. Like, why is no one telling me this?
Unfortunately, I think people think that our doctors and our modern science is top cutting edge. They know everything, and it's
Right.
their responsibility to tell us, But a lot of times, unfortunately, they don't know either.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
They're learning these things too. So it's just part of the game, and I think it's important for us to do our own research when it comes to these types of things.
Absolutely.
Too,
Yeah, that's funny you say that because we work in a hospital setting, and so
Mm-hmm.
we work with physicians and we talk to them every day and stuff like that. And so and I'm not speaking badly about any of our physicians
Sure.
at all, but you realize they're just humans.
They're human. They're people.
They're humans that
Yeah.
went to school a lot longer than us.
Sure.
But man, they make mistakes all the time, man. And so I don't know. That's not even related, but I've had that realization recently, especially talking to my wife, who's a nurse, and some dealings that she had, and and anyways.
I had the same
humans.
realization.
Yeah.
It's like they're not supercomputers that have all the answers.
Right.
You know.
They're just trying to figure it out.
And I think it also comes down to the rapport that you have with your doctor too. Again, if you're not telling your coaches things, maybe you're not telling your doctor things as
There's
well.
that too.
And it's because it comes down to take care of yourself. Oh, he's going to think I'm not taking care of myself. So
Right.
Well, and
let's
also
just
too,
not bring it up.
like when you go see your doctor and stuff, you think they have all the answers to
that's
nutrition and to.
Yeah.
I've been to some doctors; they
No,
still
that
have
is-
the food
Jeez.
pyramid on the
Yeah.
wall, and you're
Don't get me
thinking
started on that.
Well,
Yeah.
we know now that like most doctors only get like a few weeks of nutrition.
exactly,
education at all.
exactly.
One
But most
course.
people don't know that,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
So I think you're looking for answers sometimes they don't have.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point.
One of the biggest pieces of advice that I give someone who's pregnant and then also postpartum is the importance of strengthening your transverse abdominis, the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that's that muscle that splits open whenever their belly
Mhm.
grows.
Yep.
And getting that reconnected is so important. But keeping that strong and keeping your pelvic floor muscle strong is going to make birth actually so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know that, but
I was
I've
going to
read
say,
that.
we have no experience in
No.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really either. I had 2 C-sections.
Yeah,
So
right.
who can know? But I heard the same thing.
Uh-huh.
So maybe
Yeah.
there's some truth in it.
Yeah.
I've said it before, but I'll say it again. It is so hard being a woman. Like I feel so sorry for y'all
I think
sometimes.
we can all agree on that.
Yeah, y'all are tough. Y'all get a round of applause.
So much respect
Yeah,
for
for
women,
sure.
for sure. So the TVA is the transverse abdominis. One of the best ways that you can strengthen that is by stomach vacuums. Have you all ever done stomach vacuums?
Yeah.
So I'm not very good at it. I've practiced a little bit, but females do that. Look up YouTube videos on the stomach
Right.
vacuum.
You got some splaining to do because I have no idea what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
So have you
So
ever?
basically, you're going to like sit up straight, and you're going to be sucking in your stomach,
Okay.
and then you're letting it out slowly, and you're going to be doing it over and over.
Okay.
What this can do is a great exercise to help fix diastasis. Is basically what you're talking about. Diastasis is after childbirth. I mean, you can do it. You can have it from other things, but it's most commonly linked to childbirth because it's that separation of the abdomen walls that may not go back right away after childbirth. And it can depend on the size of the baby and how much stretching is done and whatever. I still have a little bit. Like sometimes it's just going to be there. But they're going back to normal or what most people consider ab exercises can actually make it worse.
Right.
So I think that's important to let your postpartum clients know as well that if they do have some diastasis or separation of the abs, we may not be doing regular ab exercises.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Doing isometric stuff is a lot better than just repping out sit-ups and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So do some isometric holds like boat holds or plank poses and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which is a great transition to the next one that I wanted to talk about is female. The fitness market puts an overemphasis on ab exercises.
Yeah.
Like you just see it, like I'm thinking about the gym that I go to in Wichita. There's this other room that's basically just people use for core exercises.
Yeah.
And it's always just always filled with women in there just doing hundreds and hundreds of reps of crunches and bicycle crunches and sit-ups and all that stuff, which have their place, but I just think they've been put way higher on the pedestal than where they should be.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's just women too. I think that there's this overall focus on having a six-pack or having flat stomach. And as for women, I mean, having a six-pack in general is either you're an anomaly through DNA, or you're really very low body fat, which I wouldn't consider healthy for a woman. Men also have this really intense pressure to have like a six-pack or to have like abs or whatever. And For men, it's probably a little bit more achievable, but it isn't a basis of health. It isn't a health marker.
Right.
So if you're looking for a certain aesthetic, by any means, chase it. But I always have kind of thought, getting more and more into fitness, and I do tell my clients too, I'm like, you get fit in the gym. If you want abs, you get those in the kitchen.
Right.
Like that's how you eat. That's what you're putting in your body. Most trainers for women too, if that is an aesthetic that you're trying to reach, they don't really do a lot of traditional ab exercises because if, for example, if you're going to do any sort of bodybuilding show or anything like that, it can make you look too bulky. It can make you look bigger, especially if you're training those obliques. It'll give you this box kind of shape. Yeah. So instead of doing traditional ab stuff, what they do is isometric holds. What they do is watch what they're eating, and they're eating a very specific way to get that like cut kind of look and that V look rather than the box shape.
Right.
Oh, so I've been doing it wrong. Okay. Just going to throw that out.
No side bends, sorry.
All right.
One of my favorite episodes that we've done, I talked about how there were more millionaires in the world than there were people who had abs. And I remember, I'll never forget, Adam's response was, "Oh, good, that gives me hope that one day I'll be a millionaire."
Can't have one, I'll have the other.
Yeah. That's right.
I love that.
Yeah, there's no pressure here to get a six-pack, so.
No.
Yeah, that's fine.
Freaking Tyson, like 2 hours ago, I was like, "Tyson, we're wearing our Halloween costumes to work. I don't want you to wear your fighter's outfit." He was like, "No, I'm fat right now.
I'm out of camp.
I wanted to punch you in the face."
Come on.
I had pasta for lunch. Times are good right now.
Times are good.
That brings me to like another thing that I've thought of a lot too. Did you ever feel like you had to look a certain way to be a trainer?
Oh yeah, dude, I've fought that since day one, man. Because I've never been, I mean, in skinny in quotation marks. I've always been a big dude. I mean, I've always had that identity, anyways. But it's held me back from being the trainer that I should be. I mean, just the doubt in my mind, the constant like, you're too fat to do this, and so it's made me question everything in my in what I do.
Definitely been there as well.
But I mean, I've been doing it for 8 years, and I've been able to pay all my bills. So
I defended you the other day about that to somebody.
Oh,
yep,
well,
sure
thank
did.
you. Somebody was talking crap about me.
Well, people regret that when they do that in front of me. So no, they didn't happen very long. But yeah, man, you have the credentials. It's on the wall in your office, or, you know, at the wellness center.
Right.
Like, you didn't earn that just by going and paying money. You learned the knowledge it took and passed the test.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, so many people judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
For sure. And especially for women, I've definitely dealt with that myself. And that there's that pressure, especially after pregnancy and hormonal changes and things that happen, to bounce back right away, because we're worried that somebody's not going to see us as qualified because we just had a baby and we don't look the way we're supposed to look, or maybe we're older and we're having hot flashes and we're not sleeping well, and things are going crazy there. But people expect us to look a certain way and behave a certain way, have that kind of energy. And when we don't, we feel like we've done something wrong, or maybe we're not going to be looked at as knowledgeable in that way.
Why do we do that in the fitness industry but not in any other industry?
Right.
We don't go into another place and look at a person and go, "You're disqualified because you don't look the part."
I mean, I have heard people say that about doctors and nurses too. Like, if they don't look fit or healthy, they're like, "How can you give me any sort of advice on this?"
Right. It does happen, but it's less likely to happen than in the fitness industry, for sure. But anyway, okay. So why are dumbbells pink for women? It's just a random question.
I honestly feel like it's, some people call it the pink tax. Like, you get charged more for things that are geared towards a certain sex. That's not just, so true. I mean, it's not just women. There are definitely men. It's like fancy shaving products and stuff like that. Right. Like brushes, like you're going to charge more for that than you would other stuff. But yeah, the pretty pink dumbbells, and there's like, I'm not going to name certain brands, but there's definitely ones that are like gold and shiny. They're the same.
It's
they
marketing.
work the same thing as any rusty thing you can pick up in the driveway.
Right.
Like if it weighs the same, it weighs the same. You're not gonna get any stronger.
I don't know why y'all are
Certain
dogging my
dumbbells.
dumbbells right now.
Yeah,
So
that's
sorry.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you got the wrong ones.
Jeez.
I'm going for tone, not for
Yeah.
bold.
Right. If they're
High
not
rep.
pink, I'm gonna look like
That's what we
Arnold.
need. We need pink 80-pound dumbbells.
Okay, let's do
Let's
it.
do that.
Why
I'll paint
80?
them.
Let's go 100.
Let's go for the hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. That's right. Let's do that.
I see this all the time in the wellness center is there'll be a couple guys working out and a female will come in and she'll go grab her 5-10 pound dumbbells and she'll go to
Nothing
the other
higher.
side of the gym, get in the corner, and she'll do her whole workout right there. And I just want to go over there and say, you have just as much right in that space over there as they do.
Mm-hmm.
Kick them out of the way if you have to. Like, so I'm sure you see that a lot too.
Yeah. I think that women have been taught for a long time, whether it's obviously an actual spoken to telling them to be less and take up less space, or whether it's an overall just kind of feeling society puts on us.
Right.
We've been taught to be smaller and
Yeah.
that we need to take up less space and that we need to be accommodating to everyone around us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that's taught to little girls that isn't taught to little boys. Boys will be boys. Girls are taught to be accommodating.
Right.
That's why a lot of us don't stand up for ourselves. We've never been taught to stand up for ourselves. And that's why we worry about taking up too much space.
Yeah.
We worry about being in someone's way a lot more than a man would worry about being in someone's way. Not that they're not worried about it, but I think it's something that we just think about more than men typically do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're probably going to see a lot more women hiding in the corner than you would a man going and hiding in the corner.
Yeah.
Although I have seen that a little bit with men who are overweight and just getting into the gym and they feel like they have less right to the dumbbells and less right to space than fitter people. So that's like something that they can talk about as well.
Yeah. No. You're a paying member. You have as much right to
Absolutely.
every single square inch of that facility as anybody else does.
I think what most people find too is most people who are lifting, most of the time they're humble people.
Yeah.
And they're more than happy to move out of the way, especially in our
Such a
gym.
good point. Yeah.
Especially in our gym. How often do someone will have their headphones in and they're like, "Hey, are you using this?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like, "Give me that."
Right.
Right. It's I think there's a misconception of meatheads these days.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do too.
People are nice.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly believe that there's nobody lifting really heavy stuff that isn't fighting some personal demons.
Exactly.
There's nobody out there just like getting in the gym that isn't having some sort of mental health, physical health. They're trying to do something for themselves there.
Most of the time they're humble and they'll help you if you ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The gym is such a positive and great place, and once another thing that the mainstream does is they make the gym this place where meatheads are, where you're afraid to walk in front of somebody's camera, you're afraid to take somebody's machine before they're done with it, and the gym is not like that. You may see that on Instagram, but
That's not the norm.
It's not
right?
normal. No, especially
I have been kicked out of a Planet Fitness before though.
okay.
Did you
Planet
set up the
Fitness-
lug alarm?
I did.
Oh no.
I did.
PF is out of this conversation.
Yeah.
They're their whole world.
It's own
Yeah.
place.
But it's good for some people because they didn't. I mean,
Well, I think
whatever.
it can be less intimidating to some people, at least in the advertisements, right? They're like, okay, well, I won't feel like I'm taking up space there because everyone there looks the same as me.
Right.
Everyone there is training the same way as me. So
Exactly.
you don't feel like you are in the way of
Free
anybody
donuts
else.
on Monday and Friday's pizza day.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's
I
a
did
weird
train there
place.
for a little bit and I never went on pizza day. The smell of pizza while exercising.
Oh, gosh.
I know.
What a strange place that is. And they're all inclusive unless you bring a gallon jug in there or lift too heavy.
Dare
And
you
now,
drink water.
yeah, suddenly you're not inclusive anymore.
We're only where it's only a non-judgmental zone for people. That
specific-
The way we do it.
Yeah.
The way we do it. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Goodness. That's perfect.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, this has been exciting and fun.
This is fun.
Yeah.
So what have we learned so far?
What have we learned?
What have we learned? That's a good question. So
What have we
the
learned?
scale doesn't tell the whole story.
right.
Often you may not be telling the whole story.
That's true. Yeah.
That's true. And you're a doctor and your coach, and anybody can only help you as much as you're willing to share.
That's right.
Right.
The calorie intake is not the magic pill.
Right.
We've talked about that a little bit. You have right to space in the gym, as a female just as much as any male and just as much as any person
regardless of fitness.
In the gym.
Or color of dumbbell. You can choose what you want.
That's right.
You can do the pink ones like Tyson, or you can get the black ones like everybody else. So it's good to know. And make sure and take care of yourself if you are a woman and you've had a pregnancy and been through any part of that pregnancy. You want to make sure and listen to your body. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure and listen to your fitness and professionals.
Absolutely.
and
if you're struggling
healthcare
to find
professionals.
time for yourself, what I'd be doing is hopping on the Googler and Googling some help.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's good stuff. Veronica, thank you for being a part of our show
Absolutely.
today.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun, and it's been informative to me. I learned about vacuum. What's it called?
Vacuuming.
Just a stomach vacuum.
Stomach vacuum. I'm going to go get one of those on Amazon and see how that works.
Not that kind.
Okay, good. I'm kidding. So check that out. Isometric holds for transverse abdominis for getting back to whatever we consider to be normal after a pregnancy. Okay. Right. I learned something new today. I'm excited about that.
Well, good.
So do we have anything else to discuss before we finish? It's a good question.
Hit all the topics.
We hit it all?
Hit it all.
All right. Everybody is so informed now. And so this has been the Progressive Overload Podcast. We are excited that you've joined us. Thank you, Veronica, for being a part of our show today.
Yep.
And if you are listening, however you're listening, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check out all the social media platforms. Don't forget about our Patreon page, how you can support us there. And it's been a lot of fun to do this. And so we will get back to you next time with some more information. And I don't know, anything else from anybody else?
No.
Across the
Thanks
table?
again for having us.
Yeah.
For
sure.
Come train with Veronica.
Come train. That's right.
She knows what she's doing.
Come train with Veronica. Check her out at the Wellness Center.
Swan Family Wellness Center.
Right.
Or you're also doing some sessions at
Snap Fitness in Springtown.
Yeah. If you're in that area, go check it out either places.
All right. Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us on the Progressive Overload Podcast, everybody. And we will see you next time.
Adios.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload Podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives.